And speaking of the coronavirus, with the number of COVID-19 cases now rising in India, the need for life-saving ventilators is also increasing. A group of scientists from the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru have now developed an ICU-grade ventilator. This can be put to use during the pandemic and also make the life-saving devices more accessible to smaller cities and towns.
Once we got to know the criticality of a ventilator, it's basically one of the most critical unit that is used in ICU, which supports the life of a person. So all those things are very, it's scary to know that how these ventilators can affect a person's life. So we have also heard about lots of death only because of malfunctioning ventilators. So we have to make sure that this works properly, and we realize that, and then based on some inputs of the doctors, that what are the main conditions which are required to support a patient. For example, what should be the peak lung pressure, what should be the flow rate that should be delivered to a patient to keep him breathing continuously. So once we understood those things, again the basics of fluid mechanics and thermodynamics, we used those things and came up with this the proof of concept for a pneumatic system, which is the heart of the ventilator.
IISc's Project Praana team completed the prototyping of an indigenously developed ICU-grade ventilator. The ventilator uses only components made in India or easily available in the domestic supply chains.
One of the things that we were very afraid of in the initial days of building this ventilator was that we didn't know if all the components would be available in India, because many of the components are actually imported from countries like Switzerland or Italy or China or Taiwan. So we said, can we leverage our existing ecosystem in India and see what do we manufacture a lot, and can we repurpose that to build a ventilator?
The team took about 35 days to go from the drawing board to a proof of concept system and then a working prototype in another 2 weeks. Built using a custom designed system controlled by a microprocessor, it uses algorithms and techniques to blend air and oxygen in the desired ratio.
So what I see on media and social media, a lot of these devices that have come up since the COVID crisis really took off, they're mostly mechanized versions of what doctors refer to as ambu bags. Technically they are not really ventilators, whereas what we have, the design that we have is actually a full-fledged ventilator, in that we do not have any mechanical moving parts within our device, and the pressures and the volumes delivered to the patient are very carefully regulated.
It has control of patient-side respiratory parameters such as respiration rate, inspiration to expiration ratio, etc. It supports both invasive and non-invasive ventilation. Currently, the scientists have demonstrated the core technology of the ventilator and are in the process of looking for manufacturers to bring the product into the market. Our correspondent Nishchita Virendra from Bengaluru brings us more details. Let's listen in.
In April, India had around 48,000 ventilator systems. With the country recording around 2 lakh confirmed COVID-19 cases, the need for these life-saving systems have only increased. Keeping this need in mind, a group of scientists at the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru have developed a ventilator system that can be entirely manufactured using locally available raw material, drastically bringing down its price as well. This will ensure that these ventilators, these life-saving machines, are not just available in India's urban areas, but also in the Tier 2, Tier 3 cities as well as rural areas. In Bengaluru, with video journalist Chandan, Nishchita Virendra, WION, World is One.